We all know that each year new cars hit the market, replacing older models. Because of this, some cars tend to be forgotten over time. Today we're going to talk about those forgotten sports cars. If you're ready, let's get started. Number 12. Melkus RS 1000. The Melkus RS 1000 is a name that few outside of East Germany remember today, but in the 1960s, this car was the pride of East German motorsport. Produced between 1969 and 1979, the RS 1000 was a rare gem, as only 101 units were ever made. Powered by a tiny 1.0-liter, 3-cylinder, 2-stroke engine that produced a modest 68 horsepower, the RS 1000 wasn't about brute force. It was all about lightweight engineering and agility. Its distinctive gull-wing doors and low-slung body made it look like something from a different world, especially when you consider the era of the Berlin Wall and Cold War tensions. Despite its uniqueness, the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of East Germany marked the end of Melkus, leaving the RS 1000 as a relic of a forgotten era. Number 11. Lancia Montecarlo. Lancia is a name many associate with rally racing dominance, but the Lancia Montecarlo was a different kind of beast. Produced between 1975 and 1981, the Montecarlo was a mid-engine sports car that shared its platform with the Fiat X 1/9, but took performance a step further. Its 2.0-liter inline-4 engine produced 120 horsepower, offering respectable performance for its time. With its Pininfarina-designed body and racing pedigree, the Monte Carlo seemed destined for greatness. However, issues with brake performance and safety concerns during its production meant that it never gained widespread popularity. By the 1980s, it had quietly disappeared, overshadowed by its more successful siblings like the Lancia Delta. Number 10. Spyker C8 SWB. The Spyker C8 SWB is one of those cars that seems like it should be a household name among exotic sports cars, yet it remains largely forgotten. Launched in the early 2000s, the C8 was a striking mix of Dutch craftsmanship and pure automotive artistry. Its Audi-sourced 4.2-liter V8 engine delivered 400 horsepower, providing more than enough power for its lightweight aluminum body. Inside, the C8 was a celebration of steampunk aesthetics, with exposed gear linkages and luxurious leather everywhere. Despite its dramatic looks and performance credentials, Spyker's financial instability and limited production numbers ensured that the C8 remained a niche vehicle. Today it exists more in the memory of car enthusiasts than on the streets. Number 9. Holden Monero. The Holden Monero was Australia's answer to the American muscle car, and for a brief moment in the early 2000s, it made its way into the US as the rebadged Pontiac GTO. With a 5.7-liter V8 and rear-wheel drive layout, the Monaro could hold its own against any muscle car of its era. But despite being a performance powerhouse, the Monero never gained the global recognition it deserved. Holden's decline, coupled with the Monaro's short-lived run in America, relegated it to obscurity outside of Australia. Today it's a forgotten champion of down-under muscle, remembered only by the most devoted enthusiasts. Number 8. Porsche 924. The Porsche 924 was supposed to be the affordable sports car that introduced a new generation to the Porsche brand. Released in 1976, it was the first Porsche to feature a front-engine, rear-wheel drive layout. Powered by a modest 2.0-liter inline-4, it produced just 125 horsepower, a far cry from the iconic 911's raw power. While it sold well, the 924 was criticized for not being a true Porsche, as it shared parts with Volkswagen. As the years went on, the 924 faded into the background, overshadowed by more iconic Porsches like the 944 and 911. Today, it's often overlooked, despite being a crucial part of Porsche's history. Number 7. BMW Z1. The BMW Z1 was a groundbreaking car in terms of design and engineering, yet it remains one of the most underappreciated cars from BMW's storied lineup. Launched in 1989, the Z1 was a technological marvel, featuring doors that slid down into the body, a fully removable plastic body, and a front-engine rear-wheel drive layout. Its 2.5-liter inline-6 engine produced 168 horsepower, giving it lively performance. However, the Z1 was produced in limited numbers, with only 8,000 units made. As BMW continued to innovate with future Z-Series Roadsters, the Z1 quietly slipped into the shadows, remembered only by the most hardcore BMW fans. Number 6. Alfa Romeo SZ. The Alfa Romeo SZ, often referred to as Il Mostro, the Monster, is one of the most polarizing sports cars ever produced. Designed by Zagato and released in 1989, the SZ's angular futuristic design was unlike anything else on the road. Its 3.0-liter V6 engine produced 210 horsepower, and its handling was said to be razor sharp thanks to a specially tuned suspension. Despite its performance credentials and striking design, Alfa only produced 1,036 units, and the SZ was quickly forgotten as Alfa Romeo went through a period of turmoil in the 1990s. Today it's a rare and quirky collectible, but still far from a household name. Number 5. Lucra LC470. The Lucra LC470 is a car that embodies the spirit of raw American power and lightweight engineering. With its tubular frame and minimalist body, the LC470 could be equipped with either a GM LS V8 or a Dodge Viper V10, giving it between 430 to 600 horsepower. This car was designed for speed and agility, weighing just over 2,000 pounds, which gave it incredible performance on the track. However, Lucra's small-scale production and lack of marketing meant that the LC470 never gained mainstream attention. It remains a hidden gem for those in the know, but it's a car most people have never even heard of. Number 4. Alfa Romeo Montreal. The Alfa Romeo Montreal is one of the most beautiful and overlooked sports cars to come out of Italy. First shown as a concept in 1967 and entering production in 1970, the Montreal was powered by a 2.6-liter V8 derived from Alfa's racing cars, producing 200 horsepower. Its design, featuring dramatic air intakes and a unique headlight design, made it stand out from the crowd. Despite its beauty and performance, Alfa Romeo struggled with production issues, and only 3,900 units were ever made. By the mid-1970s, the Montreal was all but forgotten, overshadowed by Alfa's other models and the growing popularity of more practical sports cars. Number 3. TVR Tuscan. The TVR Tuscan is a car that screams British eccentricity. Introduced in 1999, the Tuscan was unlike anything else on the market. Powered by TVR's own straight-six engine, producing up to 440 horsepower, the Tuscan was brutally fast and uncompromising. Its wild design and lack of electronic aids made it a pure driver's car, but it also contributed to its downfall. TVR's financial instability and the Tuscan's reputation for being difficult to drive meant that it never achieved widespread success. It's now a forgotten piece of British automotive history, admired only by those who appreciate TVR's wild approach to car design. Number 2. Porsche 968. The Porsche 968 is often overshadowed by its more famous siblings, but this front-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car was the final evolution of Porsche's transaxle series. Launched in 1992, the 968 featured a 3.0-liter inline-4 engine that produced 240 horsepower, making it one of the most powerful naturally aspirated four-cylinder engines of its time. Despite its performance and handling, the 968 was caught in the shadow of the rear-engine 911, and production ended after just 4 years. Today it's a forgotten gem, but it represents the end of an era for Porsche's front-engine sports cars. Number 1. TVR Sagaris. The TVR Sagaris, introduced in 2005, is perhaps one of the wildest sports cars ever produced. Its aggressive, almost alien-like design, combined with a 400 horsepower straight-six engine, made it a track weapon. Built with minimal driver aids, the Sagaris was for hardcore enthusiasts who wanted a pure, unfiltered driving experience. However, TVR's financial struggles led to the end of its production, and only around 200 units were ever made. The Sagaris remains a symbol of TVR's daring spirit, but its rarity and the brand's disappearance have relegated it to the forgotten corners of automotive history.